What if you could have the best night of the year and change a child's life forever? Join us at Winetopia, Northwest Arkansas's premier wine, beer, and bourbon tasting party, raising funds for a children's home in Kenya through the local nonprofit Restore Humanity. Sip world-class wines, local craft beers, premium spirits, gourmet food, and even delicious mocktails. Join us Friday, October 10th at the Stonebreaker Barn on Markham Hill in Fayetteville. Every ticket is a toast to giving kids love, hope, and opportunity. Get yours now at iamnorthwestarkansas.com/Winetopia 2025. Winetopia, a good time for a great cause. Picture this, the sun setting over the Appleseeds teaching farm, lights twinkling above long harvest tables, and the scent of fresh herbs in the air. On Saturday, October 11th, join us for an evening at the farm. Begin with cocktails and farm fresh appetizers from Bloom Cheese Collective. Then enjoy a seasonal multi-course feast crafted by James Beard finalist Chef Matt Cooper and executive chef Jacob Perrell, using ingredients grown right here. Savor live folk music, bid on unforgettable travel and dining packages, and wind down with fireside drinks, all in support of Appleseed's mission to inspire healthy living for every child in Northwest Arkansas. Seating is limited. Reserve yours today at iamnorthwestarkansas.com/Appleseeds events. This week on I Am Northwest Arkansas, we step inside one of Fayetteville's most historic homes, the Clinton House Museum. President of the board, Joshua Youngblood, and Bailee King, museum director, share how this landmark, once the first home of Bill and Hillary Clinton, has become more than just a presidential footnote. From school visits and community events to preserving Fayetteville's deep tradition of public service, the museum plays a vital role in our cultural landscape. But with city funding gone, the museum now relies on the generosity of the community to keep its doors open. Tune in to learn why this hidden gem matters and how you can be a part of its future.
It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm as excited as always to be with you. Today, I'm doing a very special episode. I'm here with a dear friend of mine, Joshua Youngblood, who has served with me on the board of Ozark Natural Foods. And Joshua, I'd been pestering him saying, I got to get to the Clinton House Museum because he is, like myself and so many others in this community, a glutton for punishment when it comes to serving on multiple boards. And Joshua is the president of the board of the Clinton House Museum. And so Joshua convinced Bailee King, who is the museum director, to sit down with me today and have a conversation about this. Well, I won't say it's a little known treasure, but it's a treasure that we sometimes drive by if you're in the area of Fayetteville and you've always said, I've got to stop there one day. Well, I want you to listen to this episode because I'm going to make a case for why this needs to be at the top of your list of places to visit when you come to Northwest Arkansas. If you're already living here in Northwest Arkansas, if you're in Fayetteville, you got to come and visit the Clinton House Museum. So I really want to encourage you to check it out when you get a chance. So this is, and the cool thing about it is we're actually doing this interview and the museum is open. So in the background, you'll hear a cacophony of sounds of people coming in and out and checking out the museum and seeing it for themselves. But we're excited because just shows you that this place is alive and well. And this is another reason why you need to come down and visit. So without further ado, Bailee King and Joshua Youngblood, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good.
Doing real well, yeah.
Absolutely. Good. I love that. So listen, I have a number of questions that I want to ask because I really want to learn about this location. This is for a lot of people that are just the uninitiated, and for listeners who've driven past the Clinton House Museum but have never stopped in, how would you describe its significance in Fayetteville's story?
Well, I'll jump in first, and I'm sure Bailee will have some other good information for us, and we'll clarify anything that I misstate. So that's an interesting question because it's been a museum since 2005. So it has a role in the city as a museum, which is important. And it's actually one of the only history museums in Fayetteville. Fayetteville actually doesn't have a city history museum at all. And so historical museums here are kind of a rarity. But the house has been here for nearly a century, or right around a century. It's one of the best preserved examples of early 20th century architecture. It's a Tudor Revival house, so it's actually beautiful. It has lovely gardens that are open to the public even when the museum's not open. It tells a super important story as a house museum as well. And so, there's different types of museums. We're a house museum. And for the University of Arkansas and for the city of Fayetteville to have this particular one is very special because it's the only house museum that, of course, has two former faculty members from a university in that town who went on to be global changing significant figures, political leaders, social leaders, that they both lived here. And not only did they both live here, they got married in the living room. This is the house that some would say Bill used to convince Hillary to finally say yes.
Yeah.
So it's a special story. But as we say at the Clinton House Museum, it's a home for everybody's story. So it's really about Fayetteville from the 20s to the 70s when they got married here to the present day. It's a public space that helps preserve that story. Fayetteville had an amazing couple of decades there from the 70s to 80s. Writers and politicians and academics and all these people that were shaping not just the future of Arkansas, but the future of the country and the world were kind of all coming through here.
Yeah.
And this house and this museum captures that story really well. And so one of the things that's really fascinating is to people that are still around the area or people that travel here from across the country come here and then they see their stories here too.
Yeah. You were mentioning, Bailee, you were just saying how people come from literally all over the world and will show up at the doorstep here and want to see the museum.
Yeah, definitely. We get people from literally everywhere. And it's so fun to see people from, they made the 8, 10, 20-hour drive here, or they flew here just for this. They're really inspired by the story of the Clintons and how, Bill grew up in a really small town.
Hope, Arkansas.
Yeah,
right?
Hope, Arkansas. Yeah. And that is really inspiring to them. And they really are excited to come see this place that totally humanizes him as a person and not just this really iconic figure that we all know. But yeah, it's really cool to see people from literally everywhere. I've met people from countries that I've never met people from. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You want to say something else?
Yeah, well, Bailee was just sharing a story with us about people from Chile. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I was in the museum on a weekend, I had a large family from India come to visit. During weekends where I've just been doing some work around because it's volunteer board, doing some work around the house or covering the desk. I've had people from Indonesia. I've had people from Mexico. I've had people from Japan. I've had people from Europe, all over Europe. And so it's amazing for Fayetteville to have a place that when people are coming to maybe this part of the country, or maybe they're coming specifically to Arkansas, they go here.
Yeah. You mentioned something to me, Josh, when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about possibly doing this episode. About what a lot of people don't know is that this is one of the most visited museums here in this area right here. So
I have statistics to back up that.
Yeah.
Well, we love statistics.
Yeah,
so,
we do. And they help tell a story. And it's a story that, as you mentioned earlier, and is something that on the board and Bailee we're facing city funding, which the museum has had since it opened
2005
opening. Mm-hmm. It's always had city funding. until just a couple years ago, we started winding down. And so the last of our funding will be gone next year. That said, the museum averages more than 65 visitors a week. We have peak week visitation of over 100. Bailee actually tracked 1 week in June that had 120 people come through the museum. And that's when school's not in session, a full-time session. We get a lot of folks that are, they're coming with their parents, they're coming from Texas or somewhere else, and they're visiting the U of A, and they'll drop in. But that was during the summer, and we had 120 people come here. And when you're looking around, whatever Google search you're doing or whatever TripAdvisor or wherever you're looking, it's going to list the Clinton House. It's going to say this is something to do, and people do it. A conversation I've had actually several times in the museum with visitors is that we were here visiting something else, like Crystal Bridges,
right?
Of course, it's an international draw. Fantastic museum, right? So they were like, we wanted something else to do to get a better sense of the area, to learn a little bit more history, and the Clinton House was here for them.
Yeah, I like that. And I like it. It's literally around the corner from the Fayetteville Public Library, which is also another local draw.
Absolutely.
And kind of the two go hand in hand. When you think of the collection that the Fayetteville Public Library has, and then what the Clinton House represents from a historical standpoint, I think it's important to, there's a lot of history here. And this is something that people can really take advantage of.
Can I just say one little quick note about that? You say it goes hand in hand. Actually, on September 10th, the Clinton House Museum is co-hosting an event with the Fayetteville Public Library, our good friends right down the road, which will be the writer Carolyn Staley will be doing a reading from her book, The Boy Next Door, My 60-Year Friendship with Bill Clinton. It's actually going to be at Fayetteville Public Library.
I saw that.
We don't have the parking at the Clinton House Museum to host as many people as that would be, but of course we do have free parking. But so it's going to be there again, September 10th, and it's co-hosted by the Clinton House.
And so for people listening to this episode, whether they're listening to it before that event, if it comes out by then, or if they're listening to it post that event, do you do any other partnerships with the Fayetteville Public Library at all?
Yeah, we want to start doing things with them just because there's like so much opportunity there.
Yeah.
Our main partnerships that we want to start doing, which also kind of closely related to the public library, are like schools.
Yeah.
And I went and talked to someone from the Fayetteville Public Library the other day, and she mentioned how much they could help with that, even doing kind of like a conjoined field trip type of situation.
Right. 2 for 1.
Yeah. So there's lots of opportunity there. But yeah, that's something we're definitely like excited about in the future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, there is such a collaborative spirit in Northwest Arkansas, period. Right. But especially in Fayetteville, I mean, I can speak to that. I see that in Springdale. I see it in Rogers. I see it in Bentonville. But Fayetteville certainly has that place of collaboration where people like to come together and kind of join forces because, we're always stronger together than we are separate. So that makes a huge difference.
One of the things that Bailee's done since she's joined us, and we're very grateful to have her services with us and her professional leadership, is build a little bit stronger connection with some of those folks and building that collaboration. So we've hosted an event and correct me if I get this wrong, Bailee, from the Arkansas Museum Association's Northwest Arkansas chapter. We hosted the whole chapter here. That was in collaboration with the Shiloh Museum and some other local folks, but we had museum professionals from around the area here, which is really incredible, trying to tell our story, but also, as you say, build those networks, build that collaboration, open up some more opportunities for us. Because as much as we would like to do things like school visits and be able to support buses that have to have parking, you have to pay the drivers and all of those things, or to create more educational materials that we can hand out. It takes funds to do all this.
Yeah.
And so we need partnerships now, and we're trying to grow those partnerships for sure.
So beyond the Clintons, this museum highlights Fayetteville's tradition of public service. I know you mentioned that to me, and that kind of stands out. Can you kind of maybe share an example of how that theme comes alive in the exhibits here that we see in the house?
Sure. Well, the one for sure to highlight is we have a room dedicated to Hillary.
Okay.
So a lot of people might think Bill, but Hillary had an incredible track record of public service. She was on the faculty longer than Bill. And I think it was about 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years that she was on faculty. She did a lot of pro bono work. They're both faculty in the law school at the U of A, but she did a lot of work establishing Northwest Arkansas's women's shelter and domestic violence support networks. And so that is the public service she was doing as a faculty member that, of course, translated right to Little Rock and then to DC for both of them. Members of our board are people that are very engaged in the community as well. So we like to tell that story. Is that the impact that the Clintons had, you can kind of trace it back here.
Yeah.
Now, Bill came as faculty in 74, 75. Hillary joined him. and they were faculty here. And then he launched his political career. But he launched his political career running for congressperson right in the room we're actually sitting in right now.
Oh, wow.
And there's a table, which is we're in the war room, and the table's right next to us. And that was an unsuccessful campaign because he went up against one of the most beloved politicians from Northwest Arkansas ever, John Paul Hammerschmidt. But it launched here, and then a couple of years later, he was elected Attorney General. But all of the things that the Clintons did, the organizing, the networking with the Arkansas Travelers, their supporters that are still in Fayetteville area or across the state, across the country, those folks are coming through this house.
Yeah.
And then those people have long-lasting impact. And if you love something like the Fayetteville Public Library or any of our other great cultural institutions around here, a lot of the people that knew the Clintons back in the 70s are the reason we have those things today.
Yeah.
And I just cite one example, a good friend, there's Jim Blair, who everyone has great respect and love for Jim Blair. And the library is named, part of the library at least is named after him.
Yeah.
What an impact he's had in the community.
Huge benefactor in this area.
Huge benefactor, wonderful man, and good friends of Bill and Hillary. In those early days was doing that work.
And I'll pose this question to both of you because I kind of want to just take a little tangent, a side tangent in this conversation, just to ask, with all of the people that you've encountered that are friends of Bill or friends of Hillary that can kind of speak to those early days, did you get a sense of whether or not at that time people saw the potential for what Bill ultimately represented? And I say that for a number of reasons. I actually worked in Washington, D.C. during the second Clinton White House. So during his second term, I was there during a number of issues that came up during that time. I was working at ABC News. It was quite an interesting time to go be in the White House and cover that. So I have a perspective from that. And one of the things that my takeaway was that, President Clinton, he recognized everybody and made time for everybody, had a really an immense memory of people. And I've heard stories, and I've told these stories in talks about how he would connect with somebody and see them 15, 20 years later and still remember their name, remember the dog that they talked about and stuff like that. That's an uncanny ability, right? Not everybody shares. I'm curious to know, what was the one thing that you've heard from those friends of Bill or friends of Hillary about the early days that was kind of like a prelude to what ultimately became of the Clintons, the impact that they've had on this country and on the world?
I mean, I can't as much speak to my experiences with him in any way or necessarily his friends, but I can much more speak to people who, so many of the visitors that come to the house have something to say about him. They have some kind of personal connection with him. And it's super interesting to think about these people that are just visitors coming to see the house. So many people have some niche example of they met him when they were young, or they went to the U of A when he was teaching here. And it's so rare that when people are describing these stories, that I don't hear someone say how charismatic he was, or how thoughtful he seemed, or how the second time they saw him, he did remember them. It is so common, and the stories are always very similar in that way. So I think people definitely thought he could be something big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the stories that I heard well before I moved to Fayetteville, and as I'm old enough to have gotten the chance to vote back in the 90s for president, and was following those campaigns. And one of the stories I remembered was that his handlers would have to go look for him sometimes, whether he was in DC or somewhere else, because he would have snuck off to a Waffle House to go talk to people.
Right.
And so talking to people, really seeing people and wanting to know what everybody thought, not just the people that are around him. One of the amazing things about being on this board right now is that, that the house, they lived here in 1975. That was a good long time ago. We're talking about 50 years ago, 50th anniversary of them moving to this house and getting married. But that was 50 years ago, and people are still so convinced of the impact that Bill and Hillary could have made and did make.
Yeah.
And so they're still sticking around. We have board members that knew them back in the 50s. But what I'll say about the house, and I think this ties to the Waffle House story, if you bear with me, is that it's a humble house.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house. It's a simple house. It's a place where they had a room with all of their books because they were just out of college. So they had a whole room that was nothing but their books because they read a lot. There's a room in the house that has a setup with a gaming table because they like to play games together. the kitchen and the decor, and Bailey's done some really amazing stuff lately. And it's just a 70s house that, two folks trying to get started in their careers lived in. And this is where that whole Clinton legacy kind of got going, in this humble house. And that says a lot.
It does. I mean, and I always tell people, no matter where you sit on what side of the aisle, you always have to, respond when you see people that are able to connect with folks like that, just regular folks too, because I've heard stories too, not just Waffle House, but McDonald's and some others. And we know some of those stories, but it's interesting to hear that. And again, I have some friends that are friends of Bill and Hillary, one that actually worked in the Clinton White House, and they just regaled me with one story after another. And you're like, wait a minute, this can't be, but these are real stories, right? And it's so cool to hear that. And so this house actually kind of embodies that spirit, I think, which is why people are kind of gravitated towards it, and why people come here and visit, and why that if you're listening to this, you need to take time to come and stop by and visit. If you're new to the area, if you're thinking about relocating here, this needs to be on your short bucket list of places to go as soon as you get to Northwest Arkansas, because it will give you a glimpse into this area and what makes the Ozarks so special.
The museum did shut down during COVID, and then it took a while for us to get going again. A nonprofit organization formed. We founded a nonprofit in order to get the museum going again without the City of Fayetteville's A&P Commission managing it.
Yep.
So we've made strides, lots of strides, bringing in Bailee, having some professional management here. And that's all been great. But one of the other things that we've done is we've just expanded hours, and it's free. It's free to the people to come to this museum. We need support, and we do have a lovely box right near the front, and we have lots of cards, and and Bailee would love to talk to you about what donation or support could look like, but it's free, 10 to 4, Wednesday through Sunday. That's amazing. So anyone that's in Fayetteville can drop by and look at this humble but beautiful house, walk the grounds, we're really back up against the bike trail that goes, that connects over to Traverse and goes to the university. You can walk down the street right down to the Fayetteville Public Library, right next to Fayetteville High School. So right in the heart of things.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I'm glad you kind of teed me up for my next question, because you talked about the museum is free to visit, but it does face funding challenges, as do a lot of museums. A lot of cultural arts centers are facing more funding challenges now than ever before. What does it cost to keep the doors open, and how can the community help with that process?
So our budget, which is, I can't emphasize how lean of a budget this is. This is amazingly lean.
Doing
budget.
A lot with a little.
Yeah, doing a lot with a little. It's about $59,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's to do everything we do. The programming that Bailee has mentioned, working with schools. We host classes from Fayetteville High School. She's meeting with elementary and kindergarten classes in the next couple of weeks. We do all of that stuff. Actually having staff here, supporting interns, controlling our maintenance, because the building itself is owned by the University of Arkansas, but its nonprofit is responsible for the maintenance on a 100-year-old house.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Okay,
and so trying to keep it up to specs, but then also making improvements, and all that takes funds. And we're doing it right now on $59,000 a year. If we really were doing as much as we need to do, and if we were supporting Bailee at the level that I would really like to support Bailee at, as well as getting some more staff and getting some interns here, we'd be closer to $150,000 a year. And that's really what it takes to have a museum that's still operating on a really lean budget. The City of Fayetteville and A&P Commission, when it was operating pre-pandemic, was $250,000 a year.
Okay.
So that's what it actually took to do everything. And I'll say that we do other things like host events, and we can host weddings. We can do all of that. All of those things take cost. And so the amount of programming with the special events that the museum used to be able to do, which we were really trying to get back into doing, signature events, a 70s themed party, celebrating Bill's birthday, a lot of fun things, garden parties that the museum used to do, that was with $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so to get back to that level, it's going to take a lot of support from our friends and the people of Fayetteville and people around the world.
So there's no shortage of ideas and ways that you can really leverage this cultural institution, but it's going to cost money.
Yeah, and I'll just add one note that before the pandemic was also it was a $10 admission. So it was a $10 admission, and it was $250,000 of support from the city. So we're doing an amazing amount of stuff, and Bailee is doing an amazing amount of stuff, hosting people. As we had people walk through just now as we're talking.
Right.
Again, 65 people a week, upwards of 100 sometimes. with very, very lean budgets. And if we had more support, and we're looking at some ways to do that, and we'd love to talk to anybody about it. But if we had more support, just think of what we could do.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know, is there any connection with the Clinton Presidential Library at all? Have you guys ever spoke to them? I mean, I know the Clinton Presidential Library is down in Little Rock, but I'm just curious to know, has there ever been any connection whatsoever with this property in the library?
So we have some, so there's several different entities that are, of course, Clinton, named Clinton, because they're very influential. There's the Clinton Presidential Library, which is actually part of the National Archives.
Okay.
So that's a federal library that also has support from the Clintons and their support networks. But presidential libraries are really government-run facilities.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And they do amazing stuff. The Clinton Presidential Library is incredible. And we do have good communications with them. We've talked to them about collections before. We've spoken about cross-programming. Bailee and her interns do Instagram and other social media posts, and some of that's, cross-referencing. There's also the Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation is doing a lot of incredible stuff around the world. We don't have a direct line of support, but we do have a member of our board is associated with the Clintons, with the Clinton Foundation. And so we have a connection there as well.
I'm curious to know, what are some of the roles that partnerships with schools or local businesses and civics groups play in keeping the museum relevant? You mentioned, obviously, busing. If you bus kids here, there are some logistical challenges, but outside
which can be overcome.
But I'd be curious to know, how are you kind of connecting with those different groups? So schools, local businesses, and civic groups, in terms of just keeping the museum top of mind with as many groups as possible.
Yeah. So during COVID, obviously we were closed, but now that we're open, like, one of my biggest goals is definitely to start reaching out to schools, because there's not that many places, in Fayetteville where kids can go for free and experience, like, the home that a political figure lived in and learn about politics in a more hands-on way. So I think, that's where my goals lie there. But we have 2 field trips coming up and hopefully many more to come. As far as, like, connecting with local businesses, this isn't really a business, but we're trying to connect more with Fayetteville High School.
Sure.
We're looking at getting some gardening volunteers, which I think is, like, a really fun way for their students to get involved. Yeah, so there's lots of options, lots of different ways, but yeah.
I will mention some new programming we're doing as far as the space itself. And so we have pivoted and are moving towards already having gallery space.
Okay.
So we're currently hosting an exhibit/showing by Andrew Kilgore, who very generously is working with us to sell prints here. And then there is a portion of the sales of his prints. And these are the prints from the 1970s you might have seen. Fayetteville in its funkiest in the mid-70s. Right, 1975 was when he took those, when Fayetteville was at its peak in that sort of era, that counterculture era. But, pictures of the farmers market, people own Dixon. It's really an amazing collection. And so there's a strong connection there. And we look to have some other photographers and other artists. So we're talking to Don House, another famous local photographer, celebrated, incredible photographer. He's going to exhibit his material here, hopefully, too, if that all works out. And we're also working with Arcegas, the local coffee roasters.
Absolutely.
Everyone loves Arcegas. And if you want a Clinton House blend of Arcegas, you can get it right here in the Clinton House Museum.
Okay.
They worked with us on developing a special blend, which the board got to help with, which is great. As a coffee drinker, I really appreciated that opportunity. But yeah, we sell those. And I know Bailee was sending them around the country around Christmas time when we launched it. It was very popular. We sell cards in our gift shop from local artists. So we're looking to partner with local businesses, really that focus on what makes Fayetteville, but also what makes the Clinton House an integral part of Fayetteville. And so we're looking to the space in that way. So it's such an incredible story to tell the story of Bill and Hillary in Fayetteville, but the house is a home to everybody's story. So what else can we feature? Having some exhibits that focus on public service in the city, that on the arts and literary scene. And I should mention that several members of our board are faculty, and we have really good connections with the faculty and the programs at the University of Arkansas. So Bailee has done a great job of recruiting interns. Our current intern is a U of A student.
Okay.
And we have strong connections with marketing program over there, with history, with hospitality. And so we've had good relationships with those programs. We've also hosted classes from there. And so we had a Public History Museum Studies class visit with Professor Bill McComas, who's kind of a legendary professor at the U of A. He brought his class here just last year. And then my other role at the U of A as a faculty member and a volunteer here, I'm also the Associate Dean for Special Collections. We have a cooperative agreement with the department, with Special Collections, where we have the historical archives, but we also do some cross-programming there.
Oh, okay.
And so our folks have been over, and I know that Shiloh has visited and some other museums. So we're really looking at how to grow our partnerships more.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how many museums we actually have here in Northwest Arkansas. I mean, there is a lot. I mean, Museum of Native American History, the Momentary, of course, Crystal Bridges, as you mentioned earlier, the Shiloh Museum. I mean, the list goes on and on.
You make a good point, but I'll counter that with just one little counterpoint there is that in Fayetteville has no city museum. It has no museum about its history.
Yeah.
Besides the Clinton House Museum and the Air and Military Museum, which is great and supported by the city. At Drake Field. And Drake Field is another National Register building. Clinton House Museum is on the National Register. But the headquarters house is Washington County Historical Society, runs that, and that focuses on really 19th century history. And the University Museum focuses on research that's been done by university faculty and Arkansas history, paleontology, geology. But as far as a museum that looks at history in Fayetteville, it's really just us and the Air and Military. And Air and Military is really focused on their incredible collection of airplanes.
Right.
And we're looking at the story of Fayetteville from really the 1970s to present.
So my question for you here is, when you think of all of the generosity that you see in this area, what stories of local donors or volunteers have inspired you both with the work that you're doing here, right? Because for some people are thinking, man, $59,000, it must be a tough haul to get things done here. But you guys are making it happen, and you're making a lot with a little. But what are some of the stories that have just kind of kept that motivation going? And, waking up in the morning and coming here with a fresh eyes, like, yes, today is going to be the day. So,
yeah, I mean, I had a lady come through the museum last week. I think she was from Fayetteville, so she was just making a casual stop in. She said the thing that many people say, and they're like, oh, I've always driven by, but I've never been inside. I was like, well, I'm glad you're here. I told her, I was like, well, enjoy, let me know if you have any questions. And she came back at like an hour later and with tears in her eyes. And she was like, that was so great. Like, I feel so inspired. And I feel like a little upset at myself for not knowing that this great place was like right here, basically right next door to me. So yeah, I think it's things like that, like seeing people like be so happy and inspired by their experience here is like, yeah, it's great. Keeps me motivated.
Yeah. That's a big reward there.
I want to mention a couple of people that are really inspiring to me, and in particular, Stephen and Lindsley Smith. And the museum would not be open right now if not for all of our board members. But Steve and Lindsley, who know the Clintons, and Steve was on staff of Bill's, and Steve is emeritus professor. Lindsley was an elected statewide official, and they really believe in public service, and they believe in the mission of this museum so much. And so Lindsley helped reset all of the exhibit to get us back open.
Yeah.
Steve did the paperwork to get us incorporated as a nonprofit with some other help, and did a lot of work on grants, is advising on grants now. And those are two people that have just given a lot to the area and really believe in what the museum can do. And the people that are on our board and the people that our board is talking to all the time have a lot of stories like that too. I mentioned Jim Blair earlier, and there are other donors that have shown support in the past. We hope to build that back up. And we have so many people that have done incredible acts of generosity and service in Fayetteville. And a lot of those people do know about the museum, and we hope to build those relationships a little bit stronger. I'll say that we have a goal of creating an endowment, and a lot of museums, particularly nonprofit museums, have some sort of baseline of a backstop or a foundation for future development.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have one.
Okay.
And so that's something that we need to target on, and we're working on how to get an endowment set up so that we don't have to worry about year to year. That $59,000, that might not happen next year unless we get some more funds in.
Right.
To be perfectly honest. And we do have funds to go for a couple of years because of some generosity of the Smiths and others, that we will make it. And I know that Bailee and her folks are going to keep working hard, and the board is going to keep working hard. But to hit that $59,000 and to grow that and to do as much as we want to, it's going to take more support.
Yeah.
So we want to establish an endowment, and we want that endowment to pay dividends well into the future and help us expand and really stay a museum we'll keep the house going for another 50 years of whatever story since 1975. And also to just really to do a lot more for the city and the community.
Yeah. I think too, that one of the things that makes this place kind of special is that the Clintons are still around, right?
Yeah.
So it's like while you're touching history, you're connected with somebody that's still up and around and doing things on a regular basis. So I think that's certainly cool. So one of the challenges I know that you have is balancing preserving the home's historic integrity while also using it as a modern community space for events. Is that a challenge for you guys at all, or?
Yeah. So I hadn't before. I hosted, I guess the Arkansas Museum Association was my first event that I hosted. Yeah, it was a challenge moving, a bunch of tables in and out of the house while also keeping in mind that the house is a kind of fragile and like precious space to keep preserved. But yeah, it is a challenge, but it's a fun one. So I'm okay with it. But
okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. We are rentable.
Right.
Yeah,
however,
so tell me the different ways that this space can be rented and what has how has it been rented?
So there have been lots of events and galas, and we've had cooperative agreements with legal groups and with the Clinton Foundation and others. And that relationship with the Clinton Foundation still goes where you can use that as a meeting space.
Okay.
So one of the things that, we host weddings for sure. We can do that. We can host other meetings, professional meetings, but as just a meeting space, a beautiful place, or a place to do a reading. I'm planning a reading, which Bailee and I are going to talk about in the next couple of weeks. It's a class that I'm working with at the U of A, and we're maybe going to do a reading of poetry here that the students are working on, inspired by some poets that lived here in the 70s. But as a literary space, as a meeting space, and then as a venue, a really beautiful venue for a special occasion.
Yeah. And you said it has a garden out back, right?
That's a garden?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The First Lady's garden. It's the inside and the outside of the house are just great vibes. But yeah, the First Lady's garden in the back, it has like a flower dedicated to each First Lady, which is really cool. But yeah, it's a neat little space behind the house and on both the sides. Yeah.
It's got a lot of beautiful brickwork. It's cool spots, like literally cool.
Yeah.
Like it's really nice. And then the kitchen works. Bathroom works.
Yep.
You can have catering here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the museum's really open to working with you on that too. And there's, we have storage space out back, and then there's space for caterers to set up. So it's really, we can host a lot here. It's not the biggest venue in the world.
Right.
So if you're going to have 1,000 people come to your wedding, I don't think that Taylor and Travis are going to be contacting us about being their space, although, reach out if they'd like. Yeah. As far as, but we can host a pretty good size event.
That's cool. Speaking of weddings, do you know what the official count was when Bill and Hillary got married here in the dining room?
I don't know the number.
Small. I think 6 or 7 in attendance. Other than them, we're talking.
It was really small.
Parents and maybe very close friends.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they had a reception elsewhere with a larger group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, but right in, you can stand right where they got married, and we have photos documenting the event. It really happened. And of course, we have a replica of Hillary's dress here as well that you can feel a little bit.
There are, just looking around, there are all kinds of replicas and items here. There's a dictation recorder. There's a typewriter. There are pictures, famous picture of Bill Clinton with President Kennedy. Mm-hmm. I believe he met him because Bill Clinton was part of, what was that?
Boys State.
Boys State, right.
Yes.
Which still happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was president of Boys State.
He was president of Boys State. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I got a question for you, and I know some people might be wondering this. If a young family or a new resident in Fayetteville visits, what do you hope they take away from the museum?
That's a good question. I think one of the things is that I hope they take away a little bit of inspiration, and they kind of see, especially young people, what kind of change they could make in the world, even like regardless of like the background they come from. But I also hope people get a good feel of what it was like to live in Fayetteville in the 70s, right? Like, especially right now with our like Andrew Kilgore exhibit, like I hope people walk in there and they're like, oh, that's what Dixon Street looked like. And then they go take a walk on Dixon Street later, and they think of the house and think of like what it would have been like to be the Clintons or to be anyone living in Fayetteville in the 70s. Yeah.
Okay.
For a family that's just moved to Fayetteville, I hope that they find literally a home.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they find a sense of place here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And one of the things I think the museum does really well is shows how you can make a home here. And maybe you'll be president someday. Maybe you won't.
Yeah.
But to get a sense of place here. So there's photographs on the wall that, of them back in the 70s, right in this space. One of my favorite objects is something that's actually in our hallway. And I don't know if a lot of people notice it, but I notice it every time I'm here, which is the poem that Miller Williams read at the inauguration. Williams, who founded the University of Arkansas Press, lived in Fayetteville, brought his daughter back here to live when he joined faculty here. And then he ended up reading that poem for his friend, Bill, when Bill was elected president. And that connection to the folks here and how you can be a part of that. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I like that. So looking ahead, what are your biggest hopes for the museum over the next 5 to 10 years? You said the endowment, which, certainly we're going to speak that thing into existence and tell people that this is really good fertile soil and good ground, because not only are you supporting history, but you're also supporting what is a powerful legacy right here in Northwest Arkansas. So if all of your wishes came true in the next 5 to 10 years, what would you hope to see happen for the Clinton House Museum?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I think one of the simplest things for me is keeping the museum accessible. I think it's so special to have it be completely free to any visitor, but also accessible in the way of better translation on all of our labeling, adding closed captions to our little reels that run on our TV. Those are just little examples. But yeah, keeping and making the museum more accessible is really important and feels like a big goal for the next few years. But
the home is old, and there's a lot of restoration. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to restore the facility, address the accessibility issues that Bailee is keeping such a careful eye on, and also make sure that it's going to stick around for a really long time and protect the house, help protect the house. It's the University of Arkansas's property, but it's the museum's mission. And we really want to protect the house, but also to have professional staff feel that it's a secure place for them to work and that they can be really creative and innovative. And so to be able to support a growing staff and really be able to do a lot of programming, and for I'd love for those folks that drive by and think, I should go in someday. I would love for them to all to stop by.
I mean, listen,
that would be incredible.
I just want to tell everybody that's listening, I literally, because my kids go to Fayetteville High School, as do your, some of yours.
Well,
but
one of my boys.
But Bailee, did you go FHS?
I went to Farmington.
You went to Farmington. Okay.
Close enough.
That's okay. Still begins with an F.
Okay.
We'll include that. But I literally drive by here multiple times a day, every day.
Yeah.
And, you see that little flying pig out there in the front yard. You can't miss it. You can see Harmon Stadium I'm literally looking at the end zone of Harmon Stadium. So, and the state championship signs, but it's just something about this area and this place that coming in here now and seeing this, and this is, I'm ashamed to say it's my first time. And as a history major, as a historian, I should have been in here a lot sooner. I've been living in this area for 11 years. And that was 11 years too long to not have visited the Clinton House Museum. And so I really want to encourage people listening to this to take the time out to come. It won't take a long time. And Bailee, what she's doing here, what Joshua is doing here, and the rest of the board is nothing short of amazing. And I would encourage you to come check out this little slice of history that's here and learn a little bit more about the Clintons and just about what it was like living in Northwest Arkansas in the 70s. Because I'm always thinking, I'm always wondering what that was like. I moved here in 2014. It's a lot different. And I talk to people that are diehard Northwest Arkansans and
Arkansas.
Either way. But I talk to them and they talk about, this place has changed so much. And I always wonder, well, what was that change like? And you talk about the Kilgore prints and in the photos, and that gives you a glimpse into it. But coming into this house, it is so well preserved and so well put together. You really get a feel for what it was like in Fayetteville in 1975.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think that gets to one of the things that I really hope that the museum and the house can continue to do, because you do hear from people a lot that Fayetteville's changed, or it's not the Fayetteville that used to be. But this house can be that place where the culture and the history and the richness and the community that makes Fayetteville will be preserved.
Yeah.
It will be here for people to come visit and know. And if we're here, then, that Fayetteville isn't gone. It's just, you just got to visit the museum to find it.
That's it. Real quickly, one little known fact or factoid about this space that when you share it with people, they're always amazed to hear it. Do you have one?
Ooh, So, yeah, I think there's like not, people always ask like, what did Bill and Hillary do to the house? And I always feel like, I'm like, well, not a lot. They were busy people, as we know. But there's like tiling in our, like next to the fireplace, and it's bright blue, and it really doesn't like go with anything else in the house, but it's adorable. And Bill laid it himself.
Did he really?
He had to like learn how to do it, but he laid that tile, and I always think
there was no YouTube back then.
No.
I know. Yeah. So that's a fun fact.
I love that fact too. And it's a Tudor revival house. There's a specific style, and that's called an ingle nook. The little hearth.
It's very cool.
Yeah, very cool looking.
Yeah, it's cute.
But the fact that it's an ingle nook with bright blue tiles that Bill laid, I think is just perfect. Another thing was that I just think it's fascinating because I was this kid in graduate school and had too many history books. I was in history graduate school. It seems like forever ago. But they made their own bookshelves. Just like we all did. So they stacked cinder blocks and boards, and they had
old school before IKEA.
Yeah, we don't have an exhibit of a makeshift bookshelf.
All right.
But to think of them just living here, like sitting,
just doing life, normal, like normal people
on the floor, listening to records, reading books, and planning in the future. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, don't despise small beginnings. And when you think of the arc of the life of both Bill and Hillary Clinton, it is not just presidential, but it is monumental in the impact that they've had both here and beyond, outside of the United States. So I think this is a great place to come just to kind of witness the beginning of that arc of the lives of Bill and Hillary Clinton. And those lives are continuing to be lived on a daily basis. So this has been great. Bailee, for those that give us all the data points about coming here, the hours, when you're open, and then give us the website address to go to if anybody wants to visit that.
Yeah, the website, I believe, is clintonhousemuseum.org. And then, so when you come to the house, you can find our address online. It's 930 West Clinton Drive. But there's parking all around the house, lots of free parking. And then we are open 10 to 4 Wednesday through Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to stop. You guys can go get some lunch down on Dixon or up on the square and then shoot over here. And, you can probably see this place in do it real justice in about 45 minutes to an hour and really have seen and done a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you still have your whole day. Yeah.
And of course, we have social media channels. We have Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram's a lot of fun. We have lots of posts up there. That's always good to follow. We have more than 10,000 followers on Instagram, which is pretty amazing.
Okay.
And so that's a good way to find out some stuff that's happening too. And the website, clintonhousemuseum.org, it actually has lots of information on them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the number of people that just go to the website as they're doing like students doing research projects.
Yeah.
Because there's good biographies, a little bit about Fayetteville, the history of the house. So it's a lot. There's a lot there.
Well, we want to encourage everybody to take both Bailee and Joshua up on checking that out online. We'll put all of this information in the show notes. I'm even going to take a picture of this little nook and the handiwork of President Bill Clinton that he did back in the 70s for you to check out for yourself. But don't allow the pictures to do it justice. Come here and see it in person. And I think you'll really benefit from that. But without further ado, Bailee King, Joshua Youngblood, thank you guys both so much. And I just want to say, because it's so hard, the work that you guys do sometimes is thankless. But I want to say thank you for being good stewards of this wonderful building and the history that it represents. And just, keep going. And know that there are people out there that are going to continue to support you. And hopefully we're going to see that endowment come to pass. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I hope you enjoyed it. I finally got to the Clinton House Museum. Listen, I'm telling you guys, you need to come here and visit. Just take an hour out of your day. Come here on a Saturday. Come on a Sunday after church. Check it out for yourself. And if you do that, please reach out to me. Let me know what you thought about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then please, if you're at the museum, let them know that you heard about it first here at the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. But I appreciate all you guys. We'll be back next week with another new episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.
This episode is brought to you by FindItNWA.com, your hyper-local business directory connecting you with the best of Northwest Arkansas. Whether you're looking for a new place to eat, a trusted service provider, or unique local shops, Find It NWA has you covered. We also highlight businesses with a featured listing on the site. That means if you're a small business owner in NWA, you could be next. Discover more at FindItNWA.com.